This is a delicate issue in some respects, but in other respects, it's not. It's very simple. Peter, every day now we're seeing photographs of NFL players who are engaged in reckless, selfish, and stupid behavior. And I don't know whether it's ignorance. I don't know whether it's deliberate. I don't know whether it's a little of both. But every time I see a picture that is the aftermath of guys going to a football field somewhere, working out in a way that clearly does not mesh with the guidelines that people should stay at home. And Dr. Anthony Fauci made it clear yesterday over and over again, there should be national guidelines for everyone to stay at home. Beyond that, they got their arms draped all over each other. Forget about social distancing. Yesterday it was Dak Prescott, Dez Bryant, and others. I can't quite make out who the others were, but it's clearly Dez and Dak. Come on, guys, especially Dak. Dak's got an obligation as a franchise quarterback of America's team. There are kids out there that look up to him. They're going to follow his lead. And if they see him acting like this is no big deal, if they see him completely ignoring the concept of social distancing and more accurately physical distancing, how in the hell are we supposed to get people to do the right thing, Peter? How are we supposed to do it? I'm ashamed of Dak for doing this, and I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume it was stupidity, but he's got to make this right. And I've been waiting and watching for some kind of apology or statement of something from Dak Prescott saying to kids out there, look, I shouldn't have done this. You shouldn't do it. This is an important time. Lives are at stake, and we're going to do better moving forward.
Knowing the Dallas Cowboys, even if there is a strained relationship right now between Dak Prescott and the people who sign his paycheck or signed his paycheck, he will hear it from somebody in the organization, I'm sure, if not his agents, that you're going to need to put out a statement. You're going to need to say something about this. The one thing the Dallas Cowboys have always done right is, the right thing in terms of what you do in public, okay? And that is what I would anticipate happening at some point today. Because you're absolutely right, Mike. Dak Prescott is a good human being. He's a good person. But this is beyond tone deaf. You can't be touching other people publicly at this point in time.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is the opportunity of our lifetimes to use our platforms, whatever they may be, however large they may be, to influence others. And we can either seize that opportunity and influence others in a positive way, or we can engage in reckless and foolish behaviors that send a horrible message to people out there who still are on the fence. And there are still plenty of people who are on the fence. We see the videos of guys playing basketball, people playing soccer. There are a lot of people who are just going about their lives, and it's still happening even a month into this crisis. So here's hoping that we hear something from the Cowboys, Dak, or both, acknowledging that what happened yesterday shouldn't have happened. And Peter, I've asked the league about this because I think this is going to be a trend. I think we're going to see more and more players getting together to get out onto a football field, especially players who are just getting to know each other, like, for example, Tom Brady and his new Tampa Bay teammates, and they're going to be out there engaging in unsafe behaviors, posing for photos, and the league at some point needs to drop the hammer. I've looked at the personal conduct policy, and I don't want to be Mr. Hall Monitor here, but again, this is the challenge of our lifetimes, and lives are at stake. If the NFL is going to chase guys around over things far less trivial than preventing the spread of a virus that is killing people by the thousands worldwide, if the league isn't going to use the personal conduct policy to tell its players, thou shalt not engage in these behaviors that, number one, are inherently unsafe. Number two, spread the virus. Number three, send a reckless message to kids out there who see these photos and hear about these workouts. If the league isn't going to use the personal conduct policy for that, why the hell do they even have the thing?
Mike, and I'll take this one step further. Here's one of the ways that this whole kind of haphazard slapdash sets of policies around the United States really could have an impact on this, and I mean a negative impact. One of the very few states that hasn't ordered people as a state to stay home is Missouri. So you say, well, what about the Kansas City Chiefs? Well, Andy Reid is being a good soldier. He's doing all his work from home. Brett Veach, the general manager of the Chiefs, doing his work from home. The mayor of Kansas City has basically said, I want everybody in the city to stay in This is my civic order. But what happens if you're a player on the Kansas City Chiefs? And what happens if you drive 20 minutes outside of town where you're outside of Kansas City and you can go work out with 8 or 10 fellows, of your peers with the Chiefs, if you so chose? And I'm not saying anybody is or anybody will. But when you have all these policies that are not singular policies, I think it leads to these things. The state doesn't have a policy. The city has a policy. If the team that is in that city wants to not violate the policy, players could go out 3 or 4 towns over and have a workout and not be in violation of anything. It's all this haphazard thing. And I think the sooner we basically say, everybody basically, even though it's going to kill the economy, everybody's just got to stay home for the next 2 or 3 weeks, other than to go to the grocery store and to walk the dog. That is it. And until we do that, I think we're going to have these little outbreaks in all of these little places in the country.
And Peter, I'll take it a step farther. And look, this is not political by any means. Democrat, Republican, I don't care. I want people to be safe. I want this pandemic to be contained. To the extent that we cannot trust our public institutions to handle this properly, it becomes even more incumbent on our private institutions to do so. And to the extent that the National Football League is one of the most prominent private institutions in our country, if not our world, and it aspires to be one of the most prominent private institutions in the entire world by way of exporting games to other countries every year, there's a greater obligation for the NFL to stand up and tell its players what is wrong with the images that we've seen the last couple of days, starting with Lamar Jackson, Hollywood Brown, and Antonio Brown on Wednesday, continuing with Dak Prescott and Des Bryant on Thursday. The NFL needs to send a strong and clear message to its players, its employees, and the public. If the public institutions aren't going to do it, the NFL needs to grab an oar and start rowing. And so far, Peter, the NFL has failed in that regard.
Agree totally. This should be a statement either from Roger Goodell or Dr. Alan Sills, who directs all, medical efforts inside the league. That should be a statement issued today saying that our players should be a beacon for the rest of the country. And Mike, you're absolutely right. What you said about Dak Prescott, what possibly would keep a high school quarterback in the state of Texas who idolizes the Dallas Cowboys, what possibly would keep him from calling up 8 of his friends after their whatever virtual classes they have to take today and going out to the high school field, throwing the ball around or playing 7-on-7? Nothing. That's why it's important to stand up right now and to be counted.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.